Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of my favourite people and some of the world's biggest stars, and we've got one for you today. Paul Young is back after a very long time with a brand new album called Good Thing, and this is an album that should be played live because it's so brilliant, especially the beginning half of it has got such a rhythm. Why has it taken you so long?
It's getting to know what a Paul Young album is. Back in the day, I used to fight to have hit singles on it, if hopefully they would be hits, and but also making an album was much more of a musical journey, and it's a kind of dying art now because people only download or stream track by track. But when people bought an album, I wanted to take them on a kind of emotional roller coaster of feelings. So the singles are okay and they're very instant and poppy, but then the album had to have tracks that had more depth and maybe took you a few more plays to understand what was going on. I think that's what gave albums longevity, so people carried on playing them after the hits got boring. But trying to get that amount of diversity on an album now is kind of hard, and didn't know where to start. And so when Arthur came up with the idea of the Memphis catalogue of songs, I thought maybe this is a little shove for me to get back to my roots, and which is probably not a bad thing to do at this moment in time.
What's great about it, it sounds like you, and it seems like some artists, when they come back with a new album, try and find a new sound, and I'm not sure that always works. There's two sort of elements to this. There's the percussion in the beginning half of this album I thought was just tremendous, and the guitars, and then we move on to a track, I Believe in You, which is so beautiful. I think that's important to you, isn't it, that you show a diversity in what you do, but it's still Paul Young.
Yeah, in the choice of material that we've got on here, the first ones are very much kind of 60s, but the one you've picked up on, I Believe in You, which was originally done by Johnny Taylor, is it's from a 70s album that he did, so we're moving into the kind of smooth soul that became... It was the stuff that was played in every apartment in Manhattan. It was slick and it was stuff, And I used to love the album it came from, called Tailored in Silk. And when I was in the Q-Tips, me and my best friend Tony were playing that track all the time in the car, playing that whole album. It was just, it had a great mood and a great groove. So, that's where that's kind of, it's slightly different to the rest of the material.
This is really a tremendous album. Congratulations on it. The Good Thing is out in a couple of weeks. You can pre-order on Amazon. Paul, it's so nice to see you. And in researching you on the train for the last 2 hours, what it must be like to be you is extraordinary. I mean, what a life. Do you pinch yourself?
I do sometimes, because I've been lucky enough to experience 6 or 7 weeks of life on the road with mates, and having the time of your life, being wild, being stupid, playing clubs, you can see the audience just having such a good time, and the kickback you get from that is amazing. Then to have experienced an incredible amount of fame, worldwide fame, and playing to massive audiences, not just in front of you, but worldwide TV, such as Live Aid. And to do all those things, but still hold down a family life, and to have had fun with it. And also, generally, people treat me very well. It's a good thing.
It's incredible. And then we listen to your back catalogue of music, and you've worked with so many amazing people. Just indulge me for a moment. Some of the greats that blew your mind.
Daryl Hall, Get Up and Sing Every Time You Go Away with Me in New York. That was good fun. I've done the Prince's Trust things, which I have to pinch myself on those. It's when I saw, I think, me doing Every Time We Go Away with George Michael, with Elton John on piano, and Mark Knopfler and Eric Clapton on the guitar, Phil Collins on drums, Mark King from Level 42 on bass. It just gets better and better. And then as far as the albums go, I've had Dave Gilmour play on the Other Voices album, and I was lucky enough to duet with Chaka Khan, which was absolutely amazing. Stevie Winwood played on a couple of tracks. Stevie Wonder played harmonica on one, and I've got a personal message from him from then, just saying what a pleasure it was to play on the track that I'm going to cherish forever.
I don't want to be disrespectful to artists today, but I don't think there'll ever be another generation of stars since the 60s that you were able to perform with. There was something about the legends that you've just spoke of that will never be sort of reborn. I don't think we'll talk about Justin Bieber with the same affection that we talk of Stevie Wonder, and we'll do in 50 years' time.
That range from the 60s to the 70s to the 80s, that's 3 decades there. And Stevie Wonder went through all of them. And so there I am at the tail end of all this, and all these people are still around. And I get to meet the people whose records I bought and perform with them. It's just unbelievable. And there are, I think the last name that was truly worldwide famous was Prince. Who came after Bob Marley? Well, he was around for Bob Marley, but I mean, the true kind of genius of artistry that you occasionally get with Hendrix and Ray Charles and people like that. I think Prince was probably the last. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here.
Does it ever become normal when someone like Stevie knows who you are before you tell him who you are?
No, I don't think so, no. To begin with, the idea of me flying to Australia and when I get to the other end, they'll all know me was odd. But then when I'm meeting people like that and they know me, that's a different kind of odd. You know what I mean? So I don't think you can ever totally get used to it.
I think it's fair to say Every Time You Go Away is probably your biggest track. Certainly if you look on YouTube, 27 million hits, something like that. The Live Aid days were certainly extraordinary, and you got to open that track. Is there any bigger compliment than that? Because they could have had anybody.
They could have had anybody, but I'm doing myself down, but I just think Bob was trying to fill the record, and he got most parts. He'd got most parts on it. Don't forget, I did the middle bit first.
Right.
And the opening lines were standing empty through most of the day. And it was at the end of the day that they must have been going, who can we have to put this down? And gone through possibly every permutation they could possibly think of before they got to me.
Surely it can't be that complicated. No. It was only one line.
Yeah, I know.
There was enough stars in that room. They didn't need to give you out of pity, did they?
Yeah, so I think Bob has actually liked me, and he liked the sound of my voice. I've known Bob many. I still bump into him now. He still takes a mickey royally out of what I do, what I get up to, and he knows some of the musicians that play with me. In fact, he's used them, and he's equally as savage with them as he is with me. He's just that kind of guy. But I think underneath all that, I think he was a bit of a fan of my voice. So he probably said, "Right, let's go with him then." What
Live Aid did was so tremendous, but when you consider Africa's still in a state today beyond our comprehension, it is depressing at 2016. There are still people who are starving. Unbelievable.
Well, there's so many things around the world, and it's not just hunger. There's a lot of things going on. The Syrian thing, it's. I still find it hard to believe that people can put so much faith in religion and think that you have to punish yourself and live a blameless and a quite painful life to show your faith. It makes no sense to me at all. We should be faithful to each other, support each other.
It always strikes me as odd, as soon as anything bad happens, the first thing they say is, you should pray. Isn't that the reason we got into this mess in the first place?
Exactly, yeah.
It was very controversial. We'll leave that there. Just in terms of your highlights of career, has there been a venue where you've pinched yourself? I guess the Wembley example is probably one of the biggest in terms of numbers, but are there special places you'd like to go back to even today?
I guess it was an absolute blast doing Sydney Entertainment Centre, because there I am, the other side of the world, playing this enormo dome, as they call it. And I guess that was a bit of a pinch yourself moment. There in America, I never quite got to the point where I did Madison Square. That would have been a nice one to do.
See, as big as you are, you can always be bigger, can't you? That's the trouble with this business.
Exactly, yeah. There's always someone bigger than you.
Just when you think you've made it. And in terms of your voice, you mentioned it earlier, what you notice when you listen to so much of you back to back, and then even this new album, is that beautiful soul that you can't possibly be taught. And I think if you'd have gone to musical theatre school or something like that, they'd have probably kicked it out of you.
Yeah.
That's something you're born with, I guess.
Yeah, but also I had those lovely 6 years of traipsing up and down the motorways of this country, getting comfortable with myself, finding my personality in my voice, and that was what I was talking to a successful Italian singer, not Zucchero, but another guy, and we were at a luncheon thing together. We were speaking about this, about the instant success, and he was saying, you know, these young singers, they never get a chance to find their own personality and put it into their voice because it's trained out of them too much, and they're not really in control of what the records are going to sound like. They're just there as a singer, and that's it.
And also you did it the hard way and worked hard to create an act and a persona on stage. Do you think these talent shows necessarily help show business by giving people immediate fame without having done the hard work and finding themselves as you described it?
Well, we always had them. We always had opportunity knocks and thank your lucky stars, but the thing, I think it's got out of balance. You can have those kind of programs, but with internet, social networking, the blanket coverage on TV, the bands that count aren't seen by everyone, unfortunately. They hide on the internet.
And very finally, as you can see, I'm a deeply unattractive man. What is it like to stand on a stage and be adored and have fans and people who love you and throw their knickers at you? It must be extraordinary.
Yeah, it is, but it's kind of funny. We saw the funny side. We saw a lot of bands beginning to take themselves very seriously, too seriously, separate limousines for each member of the band, etc., and things like that. And we always were careful to keep a little bit of time for ourselves, not to tread on each other's toes too much. And like I say, you know, once again, this is what the touring did for me. We got to know that you can't live in each other's pockets 24/7. Mm-hmm. So you give a bit of time to yourself. You're respectful of each other. Of course, there are arguments. People get short-tempered from time to time. But the thing that gets you through all that is a sense of humour.
Right.
And when I was in the Q-Tips, I was doing exactly what I was doing when I did my first Paul Young tour. And I said to my manager, I'm doing all the same moves I did, and now they're screaming at me. What are they what are they screaming for now? He said, it goes to show you that you're still the same jerk that you was back then. Nothing's changed, you know.
I suppose that's the key, is it? Not get your head up your own backside, because
exactly.
Sooner or later the bubble will burst. Congratulations on this new album. It really is tremendous. And it's got to be played live. When are you going on tour with this? Because there's such a beautiful percussion to it that I can just imagine it in any live venue. It's going to rock. Yeah,
I hope so. I'm getting band members together now, and it looks like it's all starting up in May.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your time. It's a great honour. Paul Young, the new album is Good Thing. You can get it now on Amazon and elsewhere. Really lovely to talk to you.
That's lovely. Thanks very much.